So I'm here today with James Ball, Associate Director at Infosys Portland. James, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Great stuff. So just to dive straight in, James, how did you get into procurement?
I've been in procurement for such a long time now. It's taken me back on a journey. I originally got into it, like most people, by somewhat accident. Took a job in what was digital in the supply chain team, so managing the inventory for the organisation. I was actually more of an analyst when I started in the supply chain team, which was a good grounding for a lot of procurement work you do later in your career. I ended up spending what was 10 years in the supply chain team at what was digital, compact Hewlett-Packard, and actually got very involved in designing warehouse inventory systems and optimizing the warehouse activity for Hewlett-Packard for nearly 10 years. And then I decided to move out of there to join a smaller business. I wanted to work in a procurement environment, so I actually joined a small organisation called Mercury Health to lead their procurement. Funny thing about it was I'd been there a month and they got acquired by a huge business called KUK in the healthcare sector, which actually worked out very well. KUK, if people don't know them, orthopaedic hospitals, community care, residential care. So really in a good insight into the healthcare industry that I had for the next 3 to 4 years, managing everything hospital buys. So that was a good grounding for my procurement journey. Very much sourcing activities I would talk about there. I then moved from there into Capita. That was great in terms of I was overseeing Capita Learning Services. So the main remit there was managing a huge array of suppliers. So at any one time, my team there were managing something in the region of 6,000 suppliers. So that was really good to learn the basics of contract management, supply relationship management, but also doing it on a global scale with some big blue chip clients. And for me personally, learning how to manage a team. So I went from sort of the KUK of managing myself and sourcing activities to a procurement team and learning how to not just look after myself from managing costs and outcomes, but also overseeing the team development. I then moved from there for about 15 years in total in blue chip organisations, and I moved from there into procurement consultancy, which is where I've spent the last 10 years, and that's been a fabulous journey. Worked with some both UK and global organisations in every sector, in every industry. That's what consultancy brings to you, the opportunity to work with so many different people in so many different areas across everything in the procurement life cycle. So yeah, 25 years been quite a journey, but like most people probably fell into it by accident at the beginning.
Fantastic, and that brings us up to today. You're now at Infosys Portland. So would it be okay if you could just describe Infosys Portland and the roles and responsibilities the procurement function holds within this organisation? Because I'm sure a lot of people listening to this may not have heard of Infosys Portland before.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've seen some of Procurement Heads interviews, and this is probably a slightly different slant because a lot of the other people that you may have interviewed in the past are CPOs. I've been a CPO roles previously. Infosys Portland are procurement consultants, and we do that on a global scale, but also have satellite regional hubs. And my role here is to essentially identify clients that we can support and work with, and basically support them in capability and capacity gaps that they may have in their organisation. That could be operating model design, it could be sourcing activities, it could be supply chain support. the whole array of procurement subjects. So it's a slightly different angle in that in my previous life working for blue chip organisations, and like a lot of the other people you may have spoken to, I'd have a long-term strategy thinking about my own organisations that I was working with and how to develop that organisation's future against their strategy. Whereas what we do here is more project outcome focused. We would typically go into an organisation and help them mature from the baseline position they're at to where they want to be or need to be.
Yeah.
And we will add that additional capacity and capability to get there.
Great stuff. And in terms of the procurement-centric roles within the organisation, how are those split out in terms of remit and scope of the roles?
Yeah, so we'll have a collection of people within our business. You'll have very experienced people like myself that will be able to consult with the organisation as to what they need in the first place. Typically, we will go in and do a diagnostic, a maturity assessment on the organisation in any subject. That will help us understand what support they're going to need from our organisation. Within the team, we will then have different individuals, whether they be typically very skilled, say 5 to 10 years of procurement expertise, maybe longer. They may be very category or subject or industry specific in terms of their backgrounds, or they may be generalists that can cover a lot of different subjects at once across that client.
Sure.
So we typically have roles that sort of go from director all the way down to consultant level.
Sure. Okay, great. And what are some of the challenges that you and the team are currently facing?
I think if I split that into two different areas, really, I'd say for a consultancy business, probably the major challenge that any consultancy business will always have is retaining talent. That's because we offer the opportunity for consultants to be involved in so many different topics and businesses that either they might get snapped up by one of the organisations we work with, or they find their grounding in a particular subject that they want to specialise in that with a particular sector or organisation going forward. So consultancies do tend to be a breeding ground for training people up. So I would say for us internally can be retention, but Infosys Portland as an organisation, we're growing something special here. So we're looking to retain people for a long journey. And for an organisation, I would say the challenges we see for others and that I used to deal with when I was in industry was just the multiple priorities that you have to deal with as a procurement professional. You're sort of constantly flipping between achieving classic cost savings, especially in an inflationary world as we're living in now, to new subjects like sustainable procurement, and being able to bring those into the organisation with right fit capacity to do so. So it's juggling multiple priorities.
Fantastic. And James, what are you most passionate about when it comes to procurement?
Yeah, great question. What gets me out of bed is definitely around the collaboration. It's why I've loved consultancy. I get to meet so many people in so many different industries. I also love when we're engaging with an organisation, actually helping them internally engage with their own stakeholders. It's amazing to me how many times we go into an organisation and the project that we undertake for them actually helps bring them together as an organisation more and work closer together. That's really rewarding. So I'd say that's probably one of the main things. The other things over recent times, I'd probably say sustainable procurement. I know cost savings and contract management, and inflation, supply chain mapping. There's some of the more, should I say, urgent and more important things on people's minds right now.
Yeah.
But sustainable procurement is, of course, become more and more of a priority, and it's a new topic for us as procurement professionals, and I've had the opportunity to get involved in a lot of projects with clients on that topic, so that's been pretty rewarding.
Fantastic. And what do you think are some of the key focus areas for procurement right now, James?
I think I've mentioned some of them just then. So definitely things we're working with on clients at the moment. I would say supply chain resilience is a big topic for people at the moment. We did a lot of work on supply chain mapping, highlighting where they're currently at the moment and creating real-time live data and digital twins essentially of what their supply chain looks like, and if factors were to happen, what they should do to counteract them. So we do a lot of work on that at the moment. Classic subjects like cost savings, of course. A lot around contract management, supplier relationship management, which will overlap that. Sustainable procurement, I've mentioned, is becoming not just a topic to look at, but to instill within the core of the business in the same way that contract management, supplier management, and just general cost savings are as well. So I'd say those are some of the main topics.
And from a hiring perspective, what do you look for when you're looking to bring people into your team, James?
Yes, I'd say first and foremost, there's always going to be the technical skills. That we need people that we can place into clients that have been there and done it, and people use us because we're adding additional capability to their organisation. So they have to have a very good grounding in procurement and those skills. That's not just academic skills, that's actually real life experience of having been there and done it. That could be as a generalist, or it could be in a very specific vertical. So technical skills first in terms of getting through the door. And then for Infosys Portland, it's also culturally. Can they be a consultant? Can they talk? Can they communicate? Can they influence? And are they just a good person?
Always helps, right?
Yeah. Can they get on with their team members? Can they get on with the clients? That has to be key as well. Infosys Portland is part of Infosys, which is a huge £16 billion global organisation. We are constantly involved in lots of global programs and communicating with people internally within our business. So having those key communication and influencing skills is critical.
Fantastic. And what are you and your team and organisation doing with regards to sustainable procurement? You mentioned it earlier. Is there anything specifically that you'd like to talk about in that area, James?
Yes. We're doing a huge amount on this work. So Infosys is a business. It's already well ahead of its targets. We're already carbon neutral, about 30 years ahead of our target.
Wow.
So we've got a really good story to tell to clients who look to us for advice on how to manage their own sustainability journeys. Of course, most large corporates are setting sustainability goals, net zero goals, science-based target initiatives. We've already got those at Infosys. We've already achieved a lot of them. So we're able to talk to clients around their scope 1 and 2 journeys, around how to reduce their emissions or any topic around ESG, in terms of their own organisation and what they're buying for themselves. But what we're able to wrap around is that deep procurement expertise around scope 3, which is your supply chain. And where organisations typically go, which is emissions first, 80% of that comes from your supply chain. So being able to look at how you're going to engage your suppliers around education of the subject, how you're going to implement it into policies, processes, workshops, category management, upskilling your procurement team into the subject, and then embedding it, because most procurement teams are pretty busy as it is, doing sourcing activities, contract management, all the things I've spoken about before. So sustainable procurement, it needs to have a focus to it to get it off the ground, to get it embedded before it becomes sustainable itself within the company itself. And as we've been there and done it ourselves as an organisation, as well as having done it for lots of other corporates, we're able to come in and educate other clients as not, I wouldn't say always best practice, but right fit for them as an organisation.
Sure. Okay, great. James, tell us about the biggest achievements in your procurement career so far.
Oh, great question. That's a good one over 25 years to pick out. I would say having overachieved on a cost savings target at the start of my consultancy career was both critical for the organisation I was working for in terms of what we achieved for that client and what it meant for that client, and also what it meant for a startup procurement consultancy, and also my own career in being able to look at a greenfield opportunity in a client and achieve £1 million saving where there was a £250,000 target, and overachieved that about in half the time frames. I'd say that's one I look back with great fondness. I would say, going back to sustainable procurement again, there's been some really rewarding programs that we've helped companies set up sustainable procurement, and then to see what they've implemented off the back of it becoming embedded in their category management has been really rewarding. Things like swapping concrete from one type to another, and that reducing their CO2 emissions as well as a significant saving in their business, and just helping them implement that, and then seeing them have a pipeline of activity that's ongoing, that's having both the natural environmental benefits but also the cost savings to the business, and a flag that they can wave about how well procurement as an organisation is doing for that organisation. That's really great to see and been really rewarding. I would actually say, though, above all of those procurement specific is actually having mentored a lot of junior staff from their early careers in coming into either the organisation industry that I've worked in or consultancy organisations, and seen them develop from sort of a generalist into head of procurement roles or director roles in other consultancies or industry. That's particularly
Leaving
rewarding.
a legacy.
Yeah, really rewarding.
Fantastic. What would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned in your procurement journey so far?
I would say not getting too insular as procurement people. I think, I live in this world, have done for 25 years, day in, day out. It's easy to think that other people think like we do, or understand the acronyms we use, or the way we talk about things. They don't. And I see this all the time because I go into different organisations, different sectors, different individuals, often dealing with C-suite, CEOs, or operational leads, or CFOs, who won't understand some of the jargon that a procurement individual may use, or not even care, quite frankly. And so being able to simplify it and talk in language that they understand, and get your message across and influence them, while also achieving what we as procurement need to achieve or want to achieve, that I'd probably say that.
That is such a good one.
Yeah.
They say if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old,
Yes.
and make them understand it, you don't really understand it yourself.
Yes.
I've not had that lesson before, but that's a really good one, James.
Yeah.
So who would you say has had the most influence on your procurement career, and why?
Oh, good one. Do I name names? No. I would. There's too many people over 25 years, James. I would say I probably learnt most technically from people who have always been actually in my teams or junior to me in terms of their specific knowledge of a topic, whether that be a marketing procurement professional or an IT procurement professional or sustainable procurement, and their deep expertise in that subject. No one person's an island. You can't know it all. Procurement's such a big topic.
Totally.
So having taken all of those lessons from different people that I've worked with, I would say, there's not one single person. There's been some inspirational leaders. I won't embarrass them by naming them, but there's been some inspiring CPOs and procurement leaders that I've worked for. You only need to look at my CV backgrounds to work out who those people are. But I would probably say it's more the teams that I've worked for and the expertise that people have had that I've taken bits from all of them.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to someone who is embarking on a procurement career for the first time?
Definitely get involved in as much as you can, all the time, until you find what works for you. There's so many opportunities and so many different strands to procurement and supply chain that I think in your early part of your career, don't be shy, get involved, see what works for you, see what you like. You may end up loving the IT side, the marketing side, the professional services. You might find the industries for you, consultancies for you. I think you have to kind of go on that journey, get involved in as many things as you can. And I don't think anybody truly sort of settles down into one particular area. I think procurement is involved in so many things across a business naturally anyway. But I would just say get involved.
Final question, James. What do you like doing in your spare time? Do you have any favourite books, films, destinations, sports, that kind of thing?
Yes, I'm very busy. I've got a lot of things going on. I've got 2 children. I've got a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. They keep me busy.
I'm sure.
When I'm not at work. I manage my local under-13s football team. That's quite a bind actually, in terms of the training and the football matches, but very rewarding seeing the kids develop. I played squash for near on 15 years. That's managed to get to a very high standard, but so nowadays I turn like Titanic nowadays, so don't play as much as I used to, but avid squash fan. Very much spend as much time as I can with the family. We've just got for our sins 2 new kittens. So,
oh right, okay.
Yeah, the children and the kittens take up a lot of time.
I'm sure they do. Yeah. Great stuff. Well, James, thank you very much for speaking with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and look forward to catching up soon.
Yeah, thank you, James.